Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Irish Illustrated Insider. I'm Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley. It is Monday, I think, Monday, January
Is
13th,
that's why we're
and
doing this. We're on track again.
we are back on schedule, but it's been difficult to keep the days of the week in order with a couple of Thursday games and travel and all that, and 30 hours coming back, etc. But anyway, I am Tim Priester with Tim O'Malley, and we are from Irish Illustrated. John Bryce is taking care of some football scoop business out of town. We thought he might join us. I don't think he's going to here today, but Tim and I are going to wrap up the 27-24 victory over Penn State in the Orange Bowl. It looked grim at the end of the first half. And then in the second half, Notre Dame looked like the better football team. Penn State rallied because Andy Kolonicki, I think, is an excellent offensive coordinator, and he made some calls that worked. But those are the only calls in the second half that worked for Penn State's offense. Notre Dame scoring 24 points to win the game 27-24 to advance to the January 20th national championship game with Ohio State. Ohio State got by Texas, as you all know, by a couple touchdowns. It was a little bit closer than that. Their offense left some points on the field that night, Tim. But let's just quickly wrap up our thoughts on Penn State, Notre Dame, and then we'll move on to some other topics, including Notre Dame's grad transfer list and a few other topics.
Yeah, the second Notre Dame made it 10-3, there was hope. I was actually thinking at the time Leonard was out, and I still thought there was hope. I told you and John Bryce and a few other people they're going to start moving the ball here. They had to score the second touchdown, Tim Priester, and they did. If anyone wants to know about the second touchdown theory, it was 10-0 Ohio State. When it was 10-3 Ohio State, Penn State. When it was 10-3 Penn State, if they scored the second touchdown, that game was over. Notre Dame did, and it became a football game again. That is one of the grittier efforts I've seen out of Notre Dame. I am three-quarters of the way through the minutia review of it. I've seen the game twice now where you're just kind of watching the fun stuff. and the drive that gave Penn State their touchdown to make it 10-0 was one of the most beautifully powerful drives I've ever seen in my life. They were abusing Notre Dame at every turn, and I can't believe how that turned around at the half. That was out of character for Notre Dame, but it was happening in real life. Notre Dame was on skates, as the saying goes, and all we were thinking was we knew Georgia was going to take more out of Notre Dame, and the 2 days they didn't have to prepare, and here it is. Credit to Marcus Freeman of that team because they do not have the defensive linemen healthy. Howard Cross isn't healthy either. Riley Mills isn't playing. Jason Onye is not playing. Two defensive ends are playing. They don't have healthy defensive linemen to stop that Penn State offense, and they did it.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
bigger, stronger, faster, fresher was my lead at halftime, and fortunately, it changed for Notre Dame. But the driver you're referring to, Tim, 15 plays, 90 yards, 7 minutes and 17 seconds.
Ty Warren just throwing people places. It was
Oh my goodness, yeah, and running backs getting to the edge. I don't know if we will ever have the definitive answer, or was it defensive adjustments, or I just think that it was more sound play. They were abandoning
yeah.
the edge over and over and over again. And if you give Singleton, especially Singleton, a chance to get to the edge, he'll get there in a hurry. And then Kate Tronell, I think that he's the straw that stirs the drink for them. And so they had great success, but Notre Dame found a way to start running the football. They did some, I addressed this in the tail of the tape. They did some things with Abdul Carter, which you wonder in retrospect why they didn't do that more in the first half, but they started double teaming him and sealing him off and running away from him and just doing everything they possibly could to not let him impact the game like he did in the first half. And he was impacting it. We've been very complimentary of Emil Wagner this year. And through the first 14 games of the season, he was able to handle pretty much everybody. Abdul Carter is a different
Oh
cat.
yeah, that's a three. He's got an advantage on Emil Wagner. But I when you said it's schematic or not, I don't know. That Notre Dame's slanting style, Penn State's the only team that's been able to take advantage of it because they're so well coached up front, and their running backs can take advantage of it. I mean, they have two pros cutting back against the grain when you have Heinisch and Howard Cross being slanted out of a play. They have two pros doing it. So if Jack Kaiser or Drake Bowen doesn't have a full-on stand-up tackle against them, they're running through those things. They're running through tackles. Jaden Osbury got blocked more in that game than he has been blocked this football season. Jaden
That was
Osbury gets off blocks. This game, he was getting
that was
blocked.
that was the worst we had seen Jaden Osbury.
Yes.
There's no and Wagner as well.
And Wagner as well. And Wagner went against my defensive player of the year in college football. I voted for Abdul Carter. He's fantastic. He played with 1.5 arms. I mean, he was injured. He had to stay on that side. He moves all over the field. He was more so on Emil Wagner's side, and he was able to beat him. And Wagner's a good pass protector. Credit to Tosh Baker for hanging in there and making an impact in the running game because he just struggles when he has to drop back and protect the passer. It's always been it's the reason he's never earned the starting role, obviously. I thought he fought hard. I thought Schrouth, see, we're getting it right, had a better second half than first half. I kept writing down his name in the wrong way in the first half. And Charles Jagasa, I mean, are you kidding me? That's your first game? Penn State?
He was really good, and that's another pronunciation. Jog you saw is the way that
Nah,
he
that's
actually
not true until
pronounces.
I see him tell me that. There's no,
Well,
but
we're gonna see it. We're gonna see him Wednesday night, so
we
you
are,
have a
and that's
chance.
not a Rocco Spindler thing because Rocco Spindler's hurt. Guys play hurt. He's playing injured. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just doing anything he could possibly do right
Well,
there.
we are going to talk about that offensive line situation in the second segment because
Oh, my bad. I didn't see that. Yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of fascinating because there are some options there, and a lot depends upon how well Spindler feels. Jagusa has to.
He has to
I
be in
don't
the
want to
game.
get, yeah, I don't want to get
He
too
has to be in
deep
the game.
into it and left tackle, moving him left tackle and all that. We'll get into it second segment. But I did want to say that, yeah, one of the things they did with Carter was, well, where if he came off the edge against Wagner, you could see Jagiso was in each instance, he had one eye in front of him and one eye to the side where Wagner was, and if he felt like he needed help, he was instantly there. They did some things with Schrouth where they pulled him and double teamed on the right side with Raridan. They really did a really nice job of diffusing Carter. Now there's sometimes where he just can run and run and run,
Yeah.
and he's just
Yeah.
going to get to it. And the few times that they chose to use him as a spy on Leonard, Leonard didn't run. So every time he did that, Notre Dame benefited from the play too. And what second half, 220.
Yeah.
I
Amazing
mean,
second half turnarounds.
yeah, they just turned around and it was great. I think we've written and talked about enough with overtime and et cetera. But
I
last
don't
point, Tim.
blame the attack though, Tim, of let's see if we can manhandle these guys like we have everybody else over the course of the game. They just found out they couldn't and they adjusted.
Yeah,
Like they just realized we can't. We cannot do what we've been doing. And when you have off Spindler, you lose Knapp. You don't have Love completely. Price was a total non-factor in that game, the way he was hitting the hole. At some point in the first half, I was like, why are you not keeping Aeneas Williams in there every time? Because what did you call him? He's resourceful.
well, yeah,
He's
he finds a way to be
yes.
successful in everything that he does, whether
Yeah.
it's pass blocking. I know there's one time where he got overwhelmed a little bit, but I mean, he had 60 what he had a 36 yarder and a 15, he had 51 yards in that
In that
scoring
drive.
drive.
Yeah.
And he's a really, really good player. And Price,
He just didn't.
I
When he doesn't hit the
well,
hole, he's not as effective. He's going
no,
to have
you
to hit
got
the hole
to,
against Ohio State. That's what it is.
and I mean, we can go on and on about Jeremiah Love and the 2 yard touchdown run. The guy's Superman. He's ridiculous, is what he is. But I mean, and banged up, he had no lost yardage plays, and half of Price's were.
It's
You
just the way
can't
he
stick
runs.
with that. Yeah, you can't stick with that guy in that situation. You love Jadarian Price, but that
He
was
he
not a
could be the guy that rips off 96 yards on 8 carries against Ohio State. But if he's going to be going backwards on four of them, you're not going to get the other five. That's the problem. He just need against it was a Georgia. It was Georgia. He ran hard for 39 yards. He just has to do that again. That keeps
well.
him in the game. It
He
keeps them
need
ahead of the chains.
you know who he needs to run like? Quinshon Judkins, who is a one cut back
Yeah,
and it's just hitting the hole.
he was
He's
bothering
just
me a little
hitting
bit
it,
watching that game.
which is a really nice compliment to Trevian Henderson, who's a really, really good running back. But more on that in a little bit. Yesterday, Sunday, we had an opportunity to speak with Marcus Freeman. We had a teleconference with him
Was
on
that yesterday,
national.
man? I have been out of town for so
I
long that I
Yeah,
was in
no,
Fort Wayne for that one.
oh yeah, it was yesterday, and most of the local media had opportunities to ask questions, but there was a national flavor to it as well. Marcus Freeman announced that Anthony Knapp, Notre Dame's left tackle, who had started the first 14, 15, having a hard time with that number because it's so beyond anything we're accustomed to, started the first 15 games
15.
for Notre Dame, which is for a true freshman. When you add up his season, he had one hell of a season, but he's done. Yeah, he had a high ankle sprain, and so he won't play in this game. And again, I do want to save the commentary in the second half for how they might align, but Um, Knapp gave him a hell of a true freshman season.
Tim, it was such a long season that at one point this week, or one point Sunday, when Freeman said he was out, and we assumed he was out, but when
Yeah.
Freeman acknowledged he was out, I was like, well, then maybe he'll be back for the. Oh no, this is it. They're in the championship game. Remember back in December 19th, you're like, well, maybe he can play on January 20th. This is it. This is the last game. They earned it. They'll be there. It's unfortunate for Knapp. I think you can tell by his face. I got some really nice new binoculars for Christmas. I looked at his face and he looked out the second he
Yeah.
came to that
Yeah.
sideline. It did not have the look of hope on it. But yeah, we'll get into the offensive line. It's good that Jeremiah Love made it through. I assume Jeremiah Love can give the same and maybe a touch more if he doesn't, because he has a couple extra days. He's certainly not going to get hurt in practice, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
He's not going to be contacted to get hurt in practice.
No, but can
Uh,
you imagine how his knee felt Friday morning?
no, no. I mean, so I put this in. I'm doing two things simultaneously: Monday musings and next things to say. I put it in one of them. Before the game, the running backs were in a huddle right below us at the tunnel, just their own huddle before they go out to the field for the final practice. So they're in pads. He now has a brace on that he didn't have on earlier.
Right.
Everybody runs out in the field. Jeremiah Love gets escorted into the second row of the stands. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm assuming it was his father because the big man who I've seen like in that role before has a Jeremiah Love jersey on like this, and he gets his hands on Jeremiah Love's face mask, and they're talking. And Love is sitting there listening to him. Love just starts shaking. They're shaking each other. It's a giant high five. He goes out, and I'm like, that dude is going to try to play today, in a way that he would not try to play if these weren't the stakes. And you call him Superman. I almost wish I voted him because my vote MVP didn't get the MVP anyway, Jaden Greathouse. But when you said just vote Jeremiah Love, you were right. He was the most valuable Notre Dame player in that game because none of that stuff happened. He wasn't the best. That was, Greathouse had huge numbers. Riley Leonard got MVP. Jeremiah Love, the effort and the toughness. He entered this season as a remarkable speedster back, and he exited this as one of the toughest running backs you've ever seen in college football.
First of all, I'm done predicting Jeremiah Love's participation in a
Yeah.
game based upon watching a practice. It doesn't matter. He's ridiculous. He is an incredible football player. The 2-yard touchdown run in which he broke at least 4 tackles with 5 defenders. I don't know if you've seen that, Tim, but
Oh,
Abdul Carter comes over and just tries to punch the
which you are
football out.
supposed to do. You are supposed to try to
Yeah, but
push
I
the ball.
mean, he was a right-handed player, and he's
Yeah.
punching out with his right hand. He wasn't going to do anything with his left. But like, he should have been. He should have a knee should have hit the ground 3 times at least in that run. And I mean, like we talk about, refuse to lose,
It was Walter Payton. It
refuse
was
to
a
be.
Walter Payton run like you
It,
used to
it
see in the highlights of the
it's
70s.
just unbelievable. So yeah, Tim, you're right. He wasn't necessarily the best player on the field that day, but he was the most valuable and the most important. And anytime Jeremiah Love is on the field for Notre Dame, good things can happen,
Yeah.
whether he's a decoy or if he's not 100%, it doesn't matter. He is the greatest running back in the history of Notre Dame. Can
I
I say
agree.
that?
I've been saying it. I have been saying it, and now I
Well,
really believe
I
it. He's incredible.
he all the I mean yards and whatever. He's only had 1,000 yard season. He doesn't have the numbers, but
I couldn't even tell you how many yards he has this year because it doesn't matter.
well, he's only had like 60 in the last two
Yeah,
games, but they were
right,
very
right.
valuable. Anyway, we could go on and on. I want to wrap up real quickly here, segment one, just talking about Ohio State. Um, and just a quick summary. We all know, like, if you say, what is their Achilles heel? The whole world knows, or the whole world says it's their offensive line. Now, they still have some good players on the O line. Donovan Jackson's a really good football player, the best of their offensive linemen. He will play in the NFL. He won't play tackle, which is where he's playing now because he's an excellent guard, first team uh, uh, all Big Ten guard from last year.
Yeah, that's what happened to Aaron Taylor too. It's not like it's a terrible thing when that
Right.
happens. You're just the best player on your line.
Exactly. But that's where inroads need to be made. And let me just say a couple of my thoughts. You can't fall behind 10-0 in this game. You can't fall behind 14-0 in this
No,
game.
you can't fall before 14.
14 because
14. You
that's the
can't fall.
second. The second touchdown rule is more pertinent in this game than ever before.
Yes. Yeah, you can't come back on them probably with their situation.
And then their D line is their D line. It's great. They're giving up 2.5 yards a carry. That is, I mean, that matchup for Notre Dame, you can't say it enough. Now Notre Dame has two starters down, two more starters down on the offensive line. They have to go against that D line. I love Cody Simon as a football player. I think he's really, really good. The better version of the brother tandem. Shane was at Notre Dame and then went to Pittsburgh, and their secondary is really good. So look, it's a tall order. But here's the greatest news of all. Notre Dame doesn't have to play Ohio State 10 times or 5 times or 2 times. They have to play them one time, and they have to find a way to make Ohio State less than Ohio State's peak.
which they have been a few times this year.
Right. I
And
mean,
they were the last time they played for a little bit.
I mean, they've had trouble scoring in games.
Yeah.
They've scored 10 against Michigan and 20 and 21. 21 actually this past game with
Right. They had
Texas
21
because of
in the
the
game.
right. So
21 and 14 of it in an absolute, I'm not going to say lucky because they designed it and blocked it perfectly, but seven that never should have happened in a million years of good football. Texas gave up that touchdown. Ohio State scored the touchdown. Texas gave it up more than Ohio State scored it at
right.
the end of the
No,
half,
no,
right? That's, come on. You can't give that up.
no doubt. So one game against Ohio State and make Ohio State less than Ohio State at their peak, and Notre Dame can win this game. Having said that, the line is appropriate. I think it will continue to come down. Open at 9.5. It's now 8.5. Is that correct?
Yeah, I
It,
saw before the Notre Dame game against Penn State, I think the Ohio State or the line was set at 7.5 over Notre Dame and 8.5 over Penn State. I think then the injuries happen. You lose your left tackle, you're
yeah,
possibly your right guard, and you see that what we knew Jeremiah Love is all guts all guts, not all of his abilities. He's Jeremiah Love doesn't get 24 carries. Like you could say, like, okay, it's time for to unleash Jeremiah Love the whole game. That's the one thing they can't do. That's the one thing we can say. They can't totally unleash the guy like if Jeremiah Love was fully healthy. So I think people know that, and the line went up. The line is appropriately set because of it. He's a point.
8.5. It could it go to 7.5? Yeah, will it go below that? I don't
I don't
think
think so.
so. And I think that's fair. But at 9.5, I thought Notre Dame was a really, really good value. Could Ohio State win by double digits? Of course they're capable of doing
But
that.
kind of like they did against Texas, right? Where they won by double
Yeah,
digits, but they didn't.
yeah,
It was it was closer than that.
yeah. Looking to upgrade your wardrobe, founded by Notre Dame alum Gal Wang, you've seen ESQ's custom clothing on the player walk and all of your favorite players and coaches. With more than a decade of making the best bespoke clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt, or bomber jacket, or that perfect tuxedo for wedding season, check out esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention Irish Illustrated and get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. What's next? You know what's next. Burning up the board, segment 2.
If you're coming to a game this season, you have to check out Game Day Your Way, Notre Dame's tailgate service provider. Game Day offers everything you need, including tailgate gear, catering, and even beverage delivery right to your spot. And their Irish Express transportation from Chicago allows you to tailgate while you travel to their all-inclusive party zone in South Bend. Let Game Day deal with all the hassle so you can focus on the fun. For tailgates, tickets, transportation, and more, visit GameDayYourWay.com.
Welcome back to segment 2. Burning up the boards. Our first question from Long Cut. Has ND found something with Greathouse and Faison late this season? And can they get big games from both against Ohio State? I didn't realize that's how we worded it, and that's really good wording for this game.
Yeah, you could use both to do that. I think Greathouse, I think he might find the matchup a little bit more difficult this time around. But 7 catches, 105 yards, a big 54-yard touchdown. Faison took a bit of a back seat this time around, but he had 11 of his, I mean, like 40% of his catches on the season came against Indiana and Georgia. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can get them, make it happen together. This is a better secondary that Notre Dame will be going against than the one with that Penn State has. But it sure came in. I mean, don't you feel great? I feel great for Jaden Greathouse because it's always been, how many times did we say, this is a Greathouse game or an Evans game? And Evans played a significant
They
role
were the
as
two.
well. But the Greathouse, the move off the line of scrimmage made Cam Miller fall down. And then Jalen Reed, I believe it is, their lead, Penn State's leading tackler, had absolutely no chance in space with a head of steam by Greathouse. So good for him and good for Faison in the previous 2 games as well.
Yeah, remember Faison against Indiana was the season high for catches, targets, and yards. Greathouse season high for yards for the whole team. Um, those are those were attained partly because the highs were not very hard to attain. 710 and 106 yards, or wherever it is. But I think this question is worded expertly. I expect Mitchell Evans to play similarly in the championship game as he did in the semifinal. If you can get Faison and Greathouse playing, and we're not putting yardage totals on it as dumb, but if they both catch 5 balls and Mitchell Evans catches 4 or 5 balls, you got something going on offense because they do sprinkle in a couple more. You get Aeneas Williams.
Exactly. I was just going
Yeah.
to say,
Yep.
throw in Aeneas Williams, I think has to have that kind of productivity as well. I'm not sure they beat Penn State if he doesn't have that kind of productivity
I
that
feel
he
like
had.
he was the offensive MVP of the first half.
Yeah, yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt, no doubt.
So
Question
I
from
think that's a great question. I think they can do it. Great point about Greathouse running into some better corners. I love the way they use him though in the slot. He's starting to carve out space. It'd be hard to take away Greathouse and Evans, so maybe Faison can benefit from that, and then one of those two.
Yeah, agreed. And what you get out of Bo Collins now, apparently he's got a calf situation.
I like
I
Jaden
sh
Thomas's toughness as a blocker. I really do. I do think Collins is probably a tougher matchup for a receiver, but is it that much tougher to cover Bo Collins? Probably, but I like Jaden Thomas in there. I thought he played well as the game went on.
Yeah. Did you
I kept
see?
writing his name down as all the runs were happening.
Yeah,
Jaden Thomas was involved.
the key blocks thrown on the 19-yard run by Jaden Thomas were Eli Raridan and Deion Colsey. And we really haven't talked a whole lot about him, but he has consistently been inserted
Yep,
in
he's
the
found a role.
lineup here in the postseason as a big blocking wide receiver. So congratulations to him because
Yes.
his career faded away at Notre Dame, and Mike Denbrock found a niche
Yep.
for Deion Colsey. Question from Wash ND. This is for you, Tim. T.O., you had a bad feeling pregame about Penn State. I remember you telling me that, Tim, and I was like, I kind of feel it too. And it turned out to be pretty true regarding Notre Dame in the first half as they appeared to be out of gas as soon as the game started. Luckily, they found something at halftime. But what things do you see here did you see and hear that led you to feeling that way before the game?
It was honestly just kind of going back to like Monday of that week. When was the game played? Wednesday? The game was played on a Wednesday. Sunday or Monday of that week, I probably would have picked Penn State. I got down there and I saw Notre Dame's energy and I saw Marcus Freeman in the press conference and I just kind of thought they're going to find a way to win this game. But then I'm sitting there before the game. I'm like, God, they got to be dead. And this is the wrong team to be dead against because I love the Penn State running game going into the game and the matchup with Warren. You look down there, you're like, this is going to be a really hard matchup for the Irish to like the defensive line to keep them off the linebackers. I just felt like they are going to be too tired to pull this off. And it felt for 2 quarters. And
Okay.
then in the middle of the third, fourth, it felt like they could be too tired again.
Yeah.
All the credit, all the credit in the world. And now I don't think this is a too tired against Ohio State thing.
Yeah.
They're just playing. Notre Dame's been the second or third best team all year. Ohio State's been alternately the first and second and 50th best team all year, right? When they don't play Michigan. Notre Dame has been either the 128th or the second or third best team. So it's a great matchup with Ohio State and Notre Dame. Ohio State's got more weapons. It's not going to be because they're tired. I felt like it was going to be because they were tired when that game started against Penn State.
Yeah. I had said that I felt Notre Dame could make some inroads against their interior defensive line. It did not show up early. 13 carries for 15 yards in the first half, but it showed up a little bit in the second half when they started. Number one, again, a different blocking scheme on Abdul Carter
And Jeremiah.
and Jeremiah Love just hammering it in there. God, I love it when he does that because if he does squeeze through,
Yeah.
because he hit it so hard, he's going to really break one. But I mean, I guess it's similar sentiment for me, Tim, that I just like.
We just
hate
started. I think we both started analyzing it. I mean, Bryce said when I told Bryce the same thing. He's like, I have the exact same feeling. I'm sharing that with people after the fact, but I don't know if people want to broadcast. Then like I'd put it on the board. I'm like, somebody asked me the next time the two of us feel this, put it on the board so they know ahead of time.
So
I'm
you
like,
did.
I'm putting this on the board.
Yeah.
And it was not from being on the field like the Louisville one was. We were not allowed on the field.
We were
and
not
I put
allowed
that
on
out.
the field.
We were not
until
allowed down there. It was just looking around and thinking to myself, oh, the logic is starting to fade here. It was just going to find a way. But they found a way.
Yeah, they sure did.
Next question is from Aerofans 624. What do you make of renewed reports that the Bears want to interview Freeman?
The Bears want to interview Freeman. That's what I make of it. And but the Freeman camp or Team Freeman, and you've got agents. Understand that you've got handlers and stuff, and so those are the guys that are talking and fielding these things. But the Bears are interested in talking to Marcus Freeman. And I understand why. I think there should be some other NFL teams. And what frequently happens this time of year is it's not necessarily, okay, we're going to hire Marcus Freeman. It's a start for the feeling out process, and it plants a seed in Team Freeman that, hey, the Bears reached out and maybe somewhere down the road. And I'm not. Marcus Freeman has an obligation to his career to listen to these
Oh,
outreach
mhm.
moments by the NFL. But this is my opinion. Uh, it would be the wrong move for him right now if it were to come to that, because he's just finding out the coach that he is, and he's not an NFL coach. His star has risen by talking about culture and all the things that he's built at Notre Dame. He couldn't coach the same way that he
Right.
Notre Dame that he would the Bears or any other NFL team. So I think it would be a mistake on his part, because he's not an NFL coach right now. He looks like he's a great college football coach, and I think that he needs to allow that part of his career to evolve a little bit more before he would make a decision like this.
Yeah, and I actually think he'll always be a better college coach than pro coach, and this
I
is a
agree. I
0%
agree.
cut down, but he is people don't know this enough how old school Marcus Freeman is as a coach in terms of the physicality of things, in terms of challenging things in practice behind the scenes. I mean, just because he's for a great reason and a wonderful person, a very well liked person, and a player's coach in some ways, I don't think a lot of stuff would go that well in the NFL, to be honest with you. So, like, what we know behind the scenes would not go great with 30-year-old men in the NFL.
I don't think so either, and I'm confident that, there are many qualities that we need in life, and self-awareness is at the
Yes.
top of the
He is a
list.
molder of men right now, young men. I mean, they follow him correctly. He's a program builder enhancer. He had a good program when he got there. He's turning it into a championship program. He inherited a very good program. He could do it. In fact, the first year he did a lot of the stuff that Brian Kelly did. Like, remember we went to practice and some of the questions were what are the differences? And like, I don't know. I don't really know what the differences are here this spring. A lot of the stuff is what it used to look like. He has changed things. He's molding in his own image. I think he's a fantastic fit for college football. Um, and the thing that most guys want out of the NFL is the ultimate challenge, but also more money. And what's he going to make? He's not going to will he make 1 million more with Chicago than 9 or 10 million he makes here now? I don't
He,
think the
he,
Bears are giving
he
Marcus Freeman
just he
$12 million with
he
no
just got
coordinators.
like a 40% increase per
Right.
year. Do you need 55?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's you need 55 if like that's your dream and that's what you can go do, but I don't think it's there. I don't
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't either. I mean,
If he was
he's a
making 5 million underpaid and they offered him 10 million, I'd be like, well, it doesn't matter what kind of coach he should be. He should go try it
right.
because as John Bryce says, the best job in the world is the fired NFL coach
And it,
because
and
then you go
like
somewhere else.
it's also my understanding that when him and his camp negotiated with Notre Dame, it's like I want this, and this too, and Notre Dame said you got it.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
your wheelhouse
it's
right
not
there.
like, Brian Kelly was always kind of frustrated about what he wasn't getting, and I get that because they're just building a brand new facility that he thought he was going to get, and I understand his Brian Kelly's impatience with that, because that was something that had been reiterated over and over again. But I think Marcus Freeman has essentially got what he's been looking for and asked for from Notre Dame, and so Notre Dame fans should be just become accustomed to this
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
up. Now, I think there's only one college football program that he would leave for, and we all know what that is. It's his alma mater. The NFL is a different animal, but I would think that he would want to be
I
deeper
would have
into
a
his
different feeling if
career.
this was year 8. I would have a different feeling if this was year 8.
Yeah, and there's a chance that he could very well be at Notre Dame for year 8, and hopefully the path that he's on is headed in that direction. But just look, be patient, Notre Dame fans, because these things are going to continue to crop up, and you're just going to have to grin and bear it until it goes away or he finally moves on.
By the way, I want to bring this up because it works better when you say it than when you write it, but I'll write it too. You know how older coaches are getting out of college football because of the transfer portal and NIL? Like, I'm pretty sure Saban had part of the reason he expedited it was this
Sure.
BS going on. I think younger coaches that are navigating it well are going to want to stay in college football until it changes. Until you're told what you're doing won't work. Like if Marcus Freeman, let's say he has the 5th highest NIL endowment 2 years from now, and he has this handle on the transfer portal where he is recruiting good players and he's bringing in 10 to 12 guys each time to augment. And he has a system going. And they win a championship against Ohio State and they lose in the first round next year and they get to the championship and lose to Ohio State. Marcus Freeman going to be annoyed by NIL and transfers. He's going to be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm building the team exactly how I want to do it. I think when it changes again, when it gets regulated, some guys will be like, all right, let's get the hell out of here because I can't mold things in my image anymore.
Right.
It's a weird changing the guard right now in college football.
Right.
From Irish Rhino, who starts on the offensive line in the national championship game. And what is your level of optimism for this group considering their injuries and the opponent? There's also another from Jim Bob Cooter 55, who belongs on every podcast for his name. If Spindler can't go, would you rather see Jogusa there or go with Sam Pendleton at guard and move Jogusa to left?
Okay.
This is hard.
We
Spindler messes things up here with the ankle injury.
Yes,
Yes.
we agree that Charles Jagusa should be in the starting lineup on Monday
100%.
night,
100%.
right? A week
Yes.
from today.
I absolutely believe that.
Now, I don't believe it's at left tackle because I think that's defeating the whole purpose he played well the other night, especially in the second half.
Right.
Here's my opinion, and I realize that you may have to change it as you're going along. But Tosh Baker has to start at left tackle. It's already so unsettled. You can't. I mean, I just don't think it's the wisest thing to do to throw Jagusa over at left tackle where he's not going to be prepared to play as well as he was when he was preparing at right guard. How do you see it? Because the opinions are going to be all over the board on this. I get that. I know people don't trust Tosh Baker. I also like a 6'9" guy that does have some reach, and if he just moves his damn feet sometimes.
I thought he blocked well in the run game too. A little bit better in the run game. It's an interesting question because I asked Jagusa this before Georgia. We had the whole team talk to. He was one of my guys. He felt like he was just kind of helping out at right guard. Like, let me go see where I can help. I'm getting back in the swing of things. It's really hard to be at right guard because everything's different and you have to retrain yourself. Maybe he'd want to go right back to left tackle. What happens if Spindler gets hurt during the game? I'm sure Spindler got hurt during the IU game. He made it through the Georgia game. He got hurt during the Penn State game. These are related. It's not unrelated that these things are happening to Spindler. It's the same situation. Can you start Jagusa there and go to Spindler if you need Jagusa at tackle? I think you have to practice Jagusa at tackle all week long if he's going to be
You probably
there.
do unless it's Gerby Lambert.
Right. But we just can't say with no one on the message board, please, and nobody here can say with any possible validity if Gerby Lambert's ready to start that game over Tosh Baker. He might not know enough checks. He might not know anything about what they need to do, right? He might mess up six times in the first 7 snaps in practice. It's not
all physical.
Right.
Look, Gerby Lambert's going to be a really good offensive tackle, whether it's
not
right
a question
or
in
left.
3 years from now.
Right. I mean, he has all the tools. He has the perfect body for it. I think he has the right temperament. He's smart. He's a lot like Emil Wagner in terms of makeup, not physical, but just football makeup.
I don't know. I mean, Baker is the ultimate good soldier, and he absolutely would be again if Jagusa wins the job and they have to call him again. I feel like Jagus. I guess the Rocco Spindler. The problem is we don't know what Rocco Spindler's health is, other than I am assuming when you miss 2 of the 3 last games because you have to leave, that it could happen again.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say Spindler's healthy. He's ready to go. What do you
Jagus
do?
at left tackle,
I guess. I
and
mean, I guess.
he's not healthy and ready to go though. He can't be, but he can be ready to go.
Yeah.
He
I
can't.
like. I
He
just
can't be healthy. He can't. You can't.
no,
Nothing
and
can
I
happen
just
there.
don't. My whole point here is like people are going to be pounding the desk saying this is what they should do. I don't think it's that situation.
I don't
I
either.
don't. I don't. I'm not. I'm not against Tosh Baker starting the game at left tackle because he does have. He's massive, and when he moves his
He
feet,
always has been massive though.
when no, but when he, I know, but that's what when he moves his feet, he's
Yeah.
capable with his reach of doing what he needs to do to keep guys off. But Tui Malao is, I'm still working on that, man.
Hey Tim,
Tui Malao.
I got a stat for you. The edge rushers, according to Pro Football Focus, 108 pressures, 61 and 47.
Oh my God.
I mean, so the most we've ever seen at Notre Dame is Aquara with 60.
Yeah.
61 and 47, and nobody's had the 47. It is, and that doesn't count the interior or a blitz. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you're lining up against a guy that you're worried about pass protection. So I don't know there is no right answer. What they needed to do was have healthy Rocco Spindler. Then you would have your right answer probably.
Yeah. Yeah. But didn't you think, I thought Jagisaw looked better at guard than he did at any point in the Oregon State
I
game
absolutely
at left
did.
tackle.
I'd love to see Tosh Baker go out and have hey, he did a good job. He did a pretty good job. He gave up 2 pressures and a sack, and the sack didn't hurt them type of game. But can you imagine better than that?
Yeah, no.
You doing a shutout on those dudes?
Move your feet and don't lunge. Move your feet and don't lunge. Keep saying that.
I'll tell Rudolph. I'll let him know.
Okay. All right. All right.
We're good.
All right. Question from, and now we're going to get into some Ohio State stuff. Question from ND Quebec. Do you think that Notre Dame will use man coverage or zone coverage against Ohio State?
I think if they don't use both, then they deserve to lose.
Yeah. My answer to the question is yes. You
Yeah.
you're not going to choose one over the other.
Yeah.
You're too good. You're too good in man to say, okay, we got to go to zone coverage.
Right.
And you know, I can't. I've watched a lot of Ohio State film, but I can't tell you exactly how much zone coverage they've faced. But I'm sure it's a whole bunch because you know, Notre Dame can match up to a great extent in man, but a lot of the other schools in the Big Ten can't. And
Right.
so
Because they're in a
Ohio State-
conference and they're not good
Right.
enough at it. Yep.
So Ohio State's been facing a ton of zone coverage, I would assume. But look, Notre Dame can, there's no reason why Notre Dame can't have success in man coverage on a good portion of the night. You're just going to have to make sure that
They don't always know when it's coming, too.
right, exactly. Whereas I was a bit surprised by this, but I guess it's the result of the 4-2-5 and what Jim Knowles does. They don't run a lot of man at all. They run a ton of zone. And it's the whole 4-2-5 and I get that. John Heacock, I want to look more into the whole the origin of all of that, but I think that's kind of cut from the same cloth. I could be wrong. But Notre Dame needs to do both, and they're best at man coverage. So you can't go into the game afraid to do that. That's who you are. That's what you do. Down and distance, score, situation, time.
I think
of the
location
game,
on the field. I think location on the field is huge
location on the
too.
field.
Yeah.
Those determine how much you sprinkle in zone coverage. And Marcus Freeman said the other day, yesterday,
Yeah.
that you have to.
He was asked for his game plan and he declined. He did not. He did not offer it.
No, but he did say that they can't. You can't. You have to go into this game with the understanding that you're not going to. You're just not going to shut this team's passing game down and those receivers down. It can't work that way.
From Denver Maximus, can we give props to Angeli for coming in cold, converting 3 third downs, and engineering one of the most important drives this year? Without those 3 points of momentum heading into halftime, I'm not sure ND could have prevailed.
I showered him with praise in the tail of the tape. He does this all the time. He's good in the quick passing game. He's decisive, which is very, very important.
1 sack was not his fault. It was a terrible snap and no chance for Wagner.
No, that's true. But there ended up being 2 of those, and that's when
Yep.
Notre Dame decided to go ahead and kick the field goal, which They had to get within one score. But I want to, for those that are totally in the Angeli camp, and I'm not taking a side here. It's just it's a football observation. He's great at the short game, but you couldn't live like that through 4 quarters, right?
Well, not against these guys. I mean, yeah, against Penn State, Ohio State, and
Right.
Georgia.
So
That's different.
he did exactly what he needed to do, which is exactly why you and I were pounding the table for him to come in the second half against Northern Illinois. They would have, I think they would have won that
Well, they would have
game.
won the game for sure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to think about that. He would have not thrown those picks.
Right.
That pick, I should say. Yeah.
I hope he comes back. I hope that
I could see him coming
CJ
back.
Carr is so good that it's like, okay, we got to go to this guy, and we still have Angeli in this role. I'm sure Angeli doesn't want to do that for another year, but from a Notre Dame standpoint, that's what you would like, is for him to be there at any point if they need him to come in. They didn't need him this year, other than when they didn't put him in during
at
during
the
the
half,
regular
yeah.
season, and then last week.
They could need him again this game, and he'll come in ready to go.
Yeah.
He's got some ice water, man. You could see the difference change. Like
I love him.
When you first go in, it's rough because you're not all that warmed up. And they called the right play, little high to Ideas Williams. By the time he hit Faison, he's looking over at the sideline. He looked completely different than when he walked in the game. It was like, all right, engaged. Let's go play football. That slant to Faison was fantastic. Like,
Well, they hadn't been able to get
done anything.
Faison going, and he did. So no,
Yeah.
all the praise to him. He's really good in those situations. We have a question from Maltese Irish. Can you provide a quick breakdown of our portal class and your expectations, projections for each? Do you anticipate any additions? Tim, I'm prepared to go in depth a little bit with this. And we will. I intend to have. We really haven't had time to look
No,
at these
I've
guys.
purposely not. I've been trying to do the whole Penn State, Ohio State
I'm
thing.
anticipating having a brief film review on all 8 this Wednesday.
I have a film review of Malachi Fields from watching the Notre Dame Virginia game 3
Yeah,
times.
well, we
and
can
he's
talk-
outstanding. Yeah,
we
I
can
love
talk
the
about
addition.
some of these guys.
When Malachi Fields first became available by stepping on Notre Dame's campus and us looking at him saying, I think they like Malachi Fields because I do. To the moment we knew that it was probably going to happen. He's a you're going to talk about somebody else on this list in a minute for blocking. He is a physical dude out there, and he is going to provide not the all-time explosive Chase Claypool weapon, but he's going to provide some downfield ability, inside zone catches inside the hash marks, and he will block. He's going to win a starting job next year at Notre Dame. Malachi Fields will win a starting job at Notre Dame next year on the boundary.
He already
Easily,
has, but
in
I know,
fact.
but
Yes,
he
he already
already
has.
has. But I know what you mean. Look, if I were to rank them, I think Devontae Smith and Malachi Fields are head to head, but one's
Right,
on each
yeah.
side of the ball. So I mean, I think Devontae Smith.
He's probably the most important because that nickel is the most important thing going right now for a great defense.
Oh man, and he plays sudden and physical, and I think he's a difference-making type of player. And I think Fields is, to a large extent. I think Fields is a cut above Bo Collins, and Bo Collins led the team in receptions this year. I think his compete level, his strength, his clamp down catches, he's just a ramped up version of Bo Collins with comparable size. I think Notre Dame fans are going to like him a lot. Next would be
Dawson.
Jared Dawson, a defensive tackle. You'll have Rubio, him, and Heinisch as the top 3. There are a lot of defensive tackles from which to choose when you add in the freshmen coming in, but those are the top 3 with Mookum. I really don't know about Elijah Hughes yet. I've got to see more of him, but he could be in the equation as well. And then
I mean, they definitely recruited him to be in the rotation, though. You're not recruiting because you think Devin Houston's going to beat him out. It's just
no,
agreed.
And then Jalen Stroman will be in the rotation at safety from Virginia Tech. Will Pauling will be in the rotation in the slot. Ty Washington is that big blocking tight end. He's really good at that. That's exactly what they need, although we don't really know which tight end is going to be the go-to guy in the passing game because Cooper Flanagan's torn Achilles
I mean, Eli Raridan's got to be the go-to guy in the passing game,
Yeah,
unless it's. I don't want to sound like I just jumped on a message board, but you brought it up too, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Unless it's the guy coming in.
unless James Flanagan is a guy. So they're trailing a little bit. I don't necessarily know, and we of course the kicker, Noah Burnett, whose numbers aren't great, but I haven't really seen them yet. So, again,
It's
you've
about
got a
80%, right?
you've got a special teams coach that was a kicker and punter. So he evaluated Noah
Yeah.
Burnett and he said, I can make this guy a better kicker. So I trust that judgment instead of just naturally looking at stats and not knowing anything more and criticizing the decision.
We'll have more on the portal Thursday, but a spring tight end edition is a prediction I have for you.
Would I be shocked if they didn't get anybody else? No, but I think that certainly is in order. I think the potential for that is great and possible. We have a question from Coach Aguilar. Which is a bigger Ohio State advantage in the matchup, the coordinators or the starting lineups?
Wow, that's kind of
It's an interesting question.
I mean, I
I
think,
mean, you've got to acknowledge that there are four really good coordinators in this
yeah,
game, and
yeah,
Ohio
I know. I
State.
think the coordinators are a great matchup. I think Notre Dame's whole is better than its parts, and I think Ohio State's whole is just as good as all of its really good parts. So I think Ohio State's got. I think Ohio State has more. I'm not going to say NFL because they're not playing an NFL game. I think they have more developed college talent right now. On if you just add the 22s, that you would pick more from Ohio State.
Yeah,
Just throw away
I
stuff that's even throw away close stuff like quarterback. You could say I don't know if you want Howard or Leonard, doesn't matter. Let's just start going like defensive line.
I mean,
Not getting an
defensive
edge guy out of it.
line,
Yeah, it's come on.
secondary to a large extent.
Secondary is a great matchup, but it's never been a great matchup if you're going back until this game for Notre Dame and an
No,
opponent. It's
I think the personnel advantage for Ohio State is greater than the coordinator matchup.
me
The
too.
matchup
Re-
between
Tim, receivers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State.
well, definitely the top three.
Notre Dame's fourth receiver versus their fourth receiver.
I
That's not. I don't even know who that is. Is it
well,
Chris Mitchell?
they're four three. They don't really go very deep, but the
Yeah,
top
but
three
they go
are,
pretty deep with three. Like,
I mean, yeah, uh, Jeremiah Smith is phenomenal. Emeka Ibuka is really all the different ways they get him the football. It's kind of comparable to Tyler Warren in all the different ways. Well, really, Jeremiah Smith too. They get these guys. The game today is so well thought out that they get these guys the football in so many different ways. You can't defend it all.
no. You know what? Like, I'd take Love over both running backs, but I would go with this is a great question, Travion. I'd probably go with Travion Henderson because I don't watch Travion Henderson every day though. So all I know about my issues with Price are I've spoken them a lot. Doesn't mean Travion Henderson doesn't have that issue either of losing yards when he shouldn't. Um, Neither one of them is a pass blocker of note. I'd rather have Mitchell Evans than G. Scott.
Yeah, with what Texas tried to do with Jeremiah Smith, Scott caught 5 passes the other day.
Yeah,
He's a big dude. He's got good size. He's a pretty good athlete, but they don't use him that much. And Carnell Tate is the beneficiary of all the attention that
I
goes
know,
to
but
Smith and Ibuka. But he's a good player. No, he's a
I'd rather
good
have
player.
Carnell Tate than who is this then? Great House Faison and Bo Collins? No, this is not a question.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
number 4
Number 4 is Innis, right?
is Ennis. They don't use him that much.
They don't, but I bet he has as many catches as Chris Mitchell has.
True. That is true. That's true.
It's actually closer than you think than I would have thought because like you never in the million years until recently would you say I'll take the running back for Notre Dame, but I will take the running back for Notre Dame. If whoever you argue for your number 2 back, I don't care. I mean Travion Henderson. Let me say it. Travion Henderson could have been at Notre Dame.
Trevion Henderson could
I'd probably
have
take
been at Notre
Trevion
Dame.
Henderson. I'd probably take Trevion Henderson.
Can we say that? What is there any reason why we can't say that now?
No, I think he could have been. He could have been at Notre Dame. Um, but they had Audric Estime, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and
Yeah.
Logan Diggs.
There was interest shown by Trevor Henderson
I
to
messed up
come
by
to
saying
the.
Logan Diggs because he probably is not on the level of the 5 running backs I just said there. That's a little bit different. But at the time, we didn't know that he was below
Yeah.
those guys.
I love Henderson's game. I mean, I love
I'd rather
his.
have Henderson than Price, I think.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
I'd
Jadarian
rather have
does.
Love than I absolutely would rather have Love than Henderson.
I,
I want to make that stated clearly so no one
I,
listening hears this wrong.
he's the greatest running back in Notre Dame history.
Yes.
So,
All right.
but Henderson's game, when he is a beautiful runner. He is a very, very aesthetic looking runner. He's patient, and when he sees it and hits it, it's a beautiful thing to see the way
Here's the most
that kid
important
plays.
thing, so we don't do the lineman, tackle, guard, center, because that's stupid for linemen. Because as you pointed out multiple times, doesn't matter what Georgia has going in the NFL. Penn State's a much better offensive line, and I'm going to say it again for you, so you don't have to. If anybody questioned you on the board, either make sure you admit you never watched film of Penn State, or just say I'm sorry, you were right, Tim Priester. But who's got a better offensive line right now? Injured Notre Dame onto their ninth starter, or Ohio State's offensive line? Injured
Well,
Notre Dame, 9 starters. They have 3 starters
no,
down and a walking wounded starter.
I get it, but there were injuries earlier in the year for Ohio State. They don't
Yeah,
have their center.
I know, but it's close. I
Uh,
mean, I'm saying you can't go 5 across. You just got to go one line.
right. Jackson's playing out of position.
Tosh Baker's might be starting,
I know. I'm just and look, it's not the two offensive lines don't line up against each other. It's it's
but they have to
offense.
survive against some
They
really good
do.
defensive lines.
They do. And Penn State,
Penn State's got the defensive line
it, it
advantage.
it it wasn't even a difficult call to say Penn State's offensive line was better than Georgia's before the game. I think it's pretty obvious now. Although
Notre,
Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame's
did,
linebackers are don't take a back seat. Don't take a back seat though.
uh, no.
Healthy KVA back, man. I like the linebackers there.
Are
If
you
you're
talking
doing
about against Ohio
linebackers
State or
versus
versus
linebackers, yeah,
Ohio State?
yeah.
I love Cody Simon,
I love Cody
but
Simon too,
but
but
I
I think
but
I
I,
like 4 guys about Notre Dame a
yeah,
lot
no,
more.
I agree with that. I agree with that. When people like, I'm not saying I want Cody Simon to play great against Notre Dame. It's just a pure football.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
I get excited when I see a really, really
I
good
love Tyler
football
Warren
player.
still.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, it's pretty awesome to see
Yeah.
that. Trevion Henderson is that aesthetic looking runner that I think is really fun to watch. Where
That's a
we at?
great question. I'd take him too, I suppose, but not over Jeremiah Love. Nobody's over Jeremiah Love. Make that known. I don't want anybody on the internet and saying dumb things like that. So, let's see. We are on Domer. Can you
Well,
share some?
go ahead.
We crawled over this one a little bit, but can you share some thoughts and comparisons about the Ohio State D line compared to Penn State's defensive line? How does ND match up? They have a really good defensive line that's incredibly disruptive. Ohio State, incredibly
It's
disruptive.
it's it's way better than Penn State's. Uh,
Penn State has a good quality. They do their job up there
yeah,
too to make Abdul Carter better.
Ohio State's defensive line is
Yeah,
kind of ridiculous. It's so good.
yeah. No, they're a really good defensive line. Now I'm thinking about Sonny Styles, Cody Simon.
Sonny Styles can be schemed against, I
Yeah,
believe.
Kaiser's good, man. He really is. Jack Kaiser's good. KVA, now that he's back, is really good, and Drake Bowen's as underrated as you get. It's hard to be underrated at Notre Dame. Drake Bowen's underrated.
While we're talking about this, and we'll talk. I don't want to we've got more podcasts coming up this week. I don't like to continue. Jack Sawyer is a really strong, physical, great leader, strong side defensive end. I think
He
I
made an
think
awfully good play.
he made a
Let's give him some credit for that too.
he made a tremendous play against his old buddy Ewers, but he's not a game wrecker.
Abdul Carter.
Emil Wagner will handle him.
You
Will
mean
be able
will
to
play
handle
well
him.
against him? You mean not handle as in shut down?
Well, I don't
handle.
think Sawyer's he has Sawyer has 8 sacks. I bet 6 of them have come when he twists. Like he's not necessarily just gonna line up with a tackle and beat him. They got to do some games to free him up. Don't get me wrong, he's a really good.
I know what you're saying.
You'd
Emil
love to
Wagner
have
can
him.
sleep. It can go back to bed as opposed to last week when he
Yeah,
was
I'd
beating
love.
Abdul
I mean, I
Carter.
wish he played for Notre Dame, but he's
Yeah.
not a guy that's just gonna beat. He's not gonna beat Wagner off the edge. Now, if he went against Baker, that could be a different story. Uh,
I mean, he can go half the time against Baker. It's just strong side and weak side they play.
yeah, right. Tuimoloau is he's a really interesting player because he's strong side defensive end, but he also has Viper ability.
He beat
You know,
Notre Dame last year.
yeah, and he's tremendous.
No, I
You
mean
know,
he made a fantastic play to beat Notre Dame on the
yeah,
screen. Yeah, we have
yeah. I
his
mean,
hip.
he's
Yeah.
he's he's incredible against screen passes. But we're kind of veering off here a little bit. But I spent so much time watching these guys that I kind of wanted to talk about them. Davison Igbinosun holds during pregame warmups. That's how much he holds. He's already holding in pregame warmups. And he's been called for more penalties than any pass penalties in the country among quarterbacks, I think. But
I'm
man,
afraid to
he
talk
is
about holding. I'm afraid to talk about holding before this game at
yeah,
left tackle,
yeah.
so
All right,
I'm not gonna mention that.
we're gonna move on. Question from Andy Davis two. Notre Dame has failed to break the 33-point barrier against the better defenses that Priester set in the preseason, but they've still found ways to win. Will they need to break through in order to win it all?
But no, I think 27 could win it because they have to play great defense. I mean, they held Ohio State to 21 and 17. Neither one of those teams were as good off. Well, I mean, the first one was. It was they were the first one was because it was the first game of the year. So that's C.J. Stroud was kind of finding everybody around him at that point. That offense got better than the first game of the year, of course. I mean, 27 can win the game. I think Notre Dame better be able to win with 27.
It's funny you should say that because that was kind of the number that I had in mind. Can Notre Dame hold Ohio State to 24 points?
Yeah,
It could be a 27-24. Yes, they could. I think the offense needs to generate 16 or 17 points just on their own. A special teams play sets up another score,
hmm
and a
and a
defensive
defense.
play
Yeah,
sets up another
yeah,
score, and it gets you
points of
into
some
the
type.
upper 20s. It gets you into the upper 20s.
I think 27's fine to win the game. I don't. In fact, I think I'm not going to say it's not better if Notre Dame scores 34, but I'm saying I they got to play really good defense to beat Ohio State too.
They've got to
They got to
play.
dictate it like they did the last two games where they, especially the last one in South Bend where they just played
They've got to
fantastic football for 59 minutes.
Notre Dame needs to make Ohio State fans say after the game that they
I
didn't
hate our
play well.
coordinators, so
Yeah, well, that's what they'll say. They hate. They'll blame the coordinators, but the reality is Notre Dame made Ohio State play less than Ohio State's full potential. I
like
think
Georgia
that's
fans are saying. Even only in this case, Ohio State might be more right because
right.
Notre Dame just whipped Georgia.
Like Notre Dame needs to play to the point where Ohio State fans say, "I can't believe we didn't beat Notre Dame."
Showtime 22 times one. The win versus Indiana seems like a lifetime ago. What has the past month felt like for you on the ND beat? And have you struggled with anything specifically in the job with the extended season? Oh,
I feel every year of my age after what we've gone through the last couple of
yeah,
weeks,
that's true.
especially trying to get back from Fort Lauderdale, which took 30 hours and took massive amounts
I
of
was not
time.
with Tim Priester for this, by the way. I got
No,
home.
no, O'Malley got out. He escaped. He escaped Alcatraz and made it home. I was not as fortunate. Look, everything about the coverage of the game and the busyness. We're on radio shows. We're doing podcasts. We want to. By the way, I want to let everybody know that our goal is to do a live stream from our hotel on Sunday, the day before the game against Ohio State. We're working on the logistics of that, but that's what we're shooting for. All of this stuff is exhilarating, man. I mean, I wrote my point after in the wee hours at 3 o'clock in the morning and was just so motivated to do it. The work part is great. The travel part is not great. It's not great.
I have not been clipped by travel yet. Knock on wood. I do have two direct flights coming up, so hopefully that will help out. Can't get out of South Bend apparently. I'll be going to Midway. Always fun. No more pot bellies. That's sad. No, I've enjoyed most of it. I don't know. I haven't known the day until today. Like when you said let's do a podcast Sunday, I couldn't. I did go straight to Fort Wayne from landing for a volleyball tournament for 2 days. That was suboptimal. You said let's do one Sunday. I was like, let's do it Monday so I know what day it is for once. Last Monday, I didn't know it was Monday because I did Monday musings on Saturday. And the day ended Monday. I'm like, this isn't Monday. I didn't write a column. And so I was literally that far off. I had no idea what it was the week we came back from the Sugar Bowl. No clue on any day. Zero. Like people joke, what day is it? I had no idea what day it was when I woke up.
I
Yeah.
think all of the Notre Dame media corps that went
Yeah.
on the road experienced something very similar.
But it's been going on the field for these wins has been fantastic.
No, it has. This is what I was going to say, and then we'll cut out here and we'll be back on Thursday with the whole gang, hopefully. But uh, we were told by I think I've already whined about this. We were told by the people in the press box to go down to the field now. We were welcomed onto the field by the ushers at the end of the tunnel. And yet while we were on the field around the stage and all that and the celebration and trying to, it's our job to kind of soak it all in and see what's going on. Barney Fife showed up and tried to run us off the field because we did not belong there. We were trying to be steered into the wrong tunnel to get to the press conference. Anyway, we ultimately stayed on the field and avoided.
I got some good video of the alma mater before I got kicked off the field. That was a good time. And Matt Freeman has stronger words about the usher than you do, by the way, if you're wondering.
Oh, well, I haven't talked to him about that, but I'm looking forward to hearing that. Anyway, I've enjoyed the two-man booth here today, Tim, as we always seem to be able to pull that off, I think. But John Bryce should be joining us again on Thursday. And as always on the second podcast of the week, we want to get Pete Sampson's perspective from The Athletic. But this was good.
Sure, it'll be all four of us on Sunday as well for the preview.
We will certainly try to do that, but at the very least, it will be the Irish Illustrated crew. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Tim Priester, Tim O'Malley. This has been Irish Illustrated Insider.